The aroma of chamomile tea, usually my balm, hung heavy with a bitter tang that morning. Sunlight, sharp and unwelcoming, sliced through the lace curtains of my cozy kitchen in Sedona, Arizona, exposing every dust mote dancing in the quiet air. My usual morning ritual of calm reflection felt like a cruel jest. I was Janet, 62 years old, a retired archivist with a lifetime's meticulous habit of organizing and preserving. It was our customary Sunday barbecue, a tradition I'd upheld for 40 years, a ritualistic gathering meant to signify family unity and shared prosperity. Instead, it had become a weekly stage for Michael to assert his dominance, for Veronica, his wife, to wield her subtle venom, and for me, Amanda, his mother, to be systematically, publicly, dismantled, piece by agonizing piece. Today, I was, to him, just another piece of trash to be discarded. It had started innocently enough, as betrayals often do. My son, Michael, and his wife Carolyn were, to the outside world, the epitome of modern success. Michael, 38, was a rising star in Phoenix's cutthroat tech startup scene, his company, Viridian Innovations, always on the cusp of the next big thing. Caroline, a decade younger, curated a pristine image as a lifestyle influencer. Her online presence a perfectly filtered tapestry of designer clothes, gourmet meals, and exotic vacations. Their lives glittered, a stark contrast to my own quiet existence filled with old books, genealogy projects, and my beloved garden. The boisterous laughter of the last hour died, a sudden, violent death, replaced by the suffocating silence of judgment and complicity. He was the reason I had agreed to what I thought was an extraordinary act of love. My knees, stiff with 63 years of unwavering devotion, protested with a dull ache as I bent slowly, deliberately, to retrieve the defiled piece of meat. My hands, once nimble enough to navigate the labyrinthine world of corporate finance, now trembled. But it wasn't from weakness. We'll pay you back, with interest, within 2 years, tops. It's an investment in Leo's future, his school district, everything. I hesitated, of course. My retirement nest egg was modest but secure, built from decades of careful saving and a few astute investments in local historical properties. It was meant to last me, comfortably, for the rest of my days, perhaps leaving a small inheritance for Leo when the time came. But Michael was my only child, and his appeals were laced with visions of Leo's laughter echoing through sun-drenched rooms, of family holidays spent by a sparkling pool. The pull of that vision, the desire to secure my grandson's happiness, was irresistible. I liquidated a significant portion of my investments, wiring the substantial sum the final payment to close the deal just yesterday. Every last cent I could reasonably spare. It felt momentous, a profound act of love and trust. I even felt a quiet pride, believing I was setting my family on a path to even greater prosperity and security. Then came the phone call. It wasn't meant for me. I had called Michael earlier to confirm the wire transfer had gone through, a mundane logistical check. He'd put me on hold, muttering something about a quick chat with the mortgage lender. And of course, I stayed on the line. Why wouldn't I? I had just helped them purchase their dream home. The house I believed was a gift, a legacy for my little grandson's future. It was meant to be an act of pure, unconditional generosity. I didn't know it was the setup for my undoing. The laughter came first, soft at first, like distant thunder rolling through the speaker, barely audible above the tinny hold music. Then, Michael's voice, still so familiar, still capable of stirring a deep, maternal ache in my chest, even as the words he spoke sliced clean through me, colder and sharper than any knife. "She's too dumb to know what's really happening," he chuckled. Casual, careless, the way people talk when they think no one's listening. The hold music faded slightly, as if the universe itself wanted me to hear every syllable. My hand froze, mid-air, holding the ceramic mug. The chamomile tea, now cold, seemed to mock me with its false promise of peace. My teaspoon clattered to the floor, a tiny metallic echo in the sudden, cavernous silence of my kitchen, but I barely heard it. All I heard was Michael's voice, followed by Caroline's breathy giggle, a sound I once associated with lighthearted joy, now imbued with a chilling malice. Seriously, Michael? You think she actually bought that investment in Leo's future spiel? Caroline purred, her voice dripping with a sugary contempt that made my skin crawl. The way she just handed over that money, honestly, it was almost too easy. She really thinks this is some kind of family investment. Of course she did, Michael replied, his tone laced with an arrogance I'd never truly heard before, a condescension so absolute it stole my breath. She's always been so naive, so trusting, believes in all that legacy nonsense. And after all, she wants Leo to have the best, doesn't she? What better way to get her to cough up the cash than for her beloved grandson? My mind reeled, trying to process the venomous words, to fit them into the narrative of my loving son and his charming wife. The mortgage lender they were supposedly talking to was clearly a pretense. This wasn't a conversation about a loan. It was a gleeful post-mortem of their deception. They weren't just discussing me. They were dissecting me, my character, my perceived foolishness, all while celebrating their calculated theft. The house, the dream home I had helped them secure. It wasn't a gift for Leo. It was a tool, a trap, a meticulously crafted lie designed to extract my life savings. The final payment, my generous act, was merely the last piece of their elaborate puzzle, locking me out of my own future. A cold, hard knot formed in the pit of my stomach. It wasn't despair, not yet. It was a searing clarity, an awakening born of raw, unadulterated betrayal. For years, I had seen Michael and Caroline through the rose-tinted lens of maternal love and hopeful grandmotherhood. I had excused their occasional self-centeredness as youthful ambition, their lavish spending as a harmless indulgence. I had convinced myself that their requests for financial help were legitimate, temporary hurdles on their path to success. But the mask had fallen. In that brutal, overheard snippet, I saw them for what they truly were. Manipulators, con artists, using my love for their own avarice. She's too dumb to know what's really happening. The words echoed. A brand on my soul. Dumb? Naive? Perhaps, but not anymore. A quiet fury, cold and precise, began to simmer beneath my outwardly placid demeanor. It wasn't a rage that screamed, but one that plotted. A quiet reckoning was coming, and they, in their arrogance, would never see it until it was too late. I silently replaced the phone on its receiver, my hands no longer trembling with shock, but with a new, steel-like resolve. The game, it seemed, had just begun. The immediate aftermath of that phone call was a strange, unsettling quiet. My world had fractured, but outwardly, nothing had changed. I still called Michael and Caroline, offering bland affirmations about the house, asking about Leo. My voice was calm, my tone even. My years as an archivist, poring over dusty documents and sifting through half-truths, had unknowingly prepared me for this masquerade. My professional life had trained me to be invisible, to observe, to meticulously cross-reference, and to uncover hidden narratives within seemingly innocuous data. Now, I was applying those very skills to my own family. A chilling and necessary pivot. My first step was deceptively simple. I needed access. Access to the digital breadcrumbs they'd left. Michael, in his hubris, had always been careless with passwords, relying on my supposed lack of tech savvy. He'd once set up my online banking and email, even my social media, and I remembered fragments of his habits. An old pet's name, a significant date. I spent the next few evenings in my study, the glow of my laptop illuminating the determined set of my jaw. It wasn't easy. Michael, despite his arrogance, wasn't entirely incompetent, but I was patient. My fingers, accustomed to the delicate rustle of ancient paper, now danced across the keyboard, each click a step deeper into their tangled web. I started with their emails, casual mentions of property, financial statements, communications with their new mortgage broker, a man named Sterling Vancia, name that now tasted like ash in my mouth. I learned that the house, this dream home for Leo, wasn't purchased outright. My funds were not the sole purchase price, but rather a substantial down payment on a much larger, more complex financial instrument. A reverse mortgage, cleverly structured against my name as a co-signer, without my full knowledge of the implications. This meant my wire transfer didn't just buy them a house, it bought them leverage over my assets, tying my financial well-being directly to their reckless endeavors. The fine print, hidden beneath layers of legalese, spoke of penalties, liens, and potential forfeiture should certain terms not be met, terms that seemed designed to fail. Then I found the shell corporations. Michael, the tech entrepreneur, had dabbled in real estate before, but not like this. There were layers of holding companies, abstract names like Horizon Ventures, LLC, and Emerald Capital Group, all leading back to a convoluted network designed to obscure ownership and liability. His tech startup, Viridian Innovations, was bleeding money, kept afloat not by groundbreaking ideas, but by infusions of capital from these very shell corporations, which in turn seemed to be funded by me, through the house, and other undisclosed investments that were clearly leveraged against future speculative gains. Caroline, too, had her hand in the pot. Her lifestyle brand wasn't generating nearly the revenue her lavish posts suggested. Instead, I uncovered invoices for exorbitant consulting fees paid from Michael's shell companies directly into her personal accounts, inflated expenses, and even what looked like outright embezzlement of minor funds from Michael's genuine business investments. She wasn't just a beneficiary of Michael's schemes. She was an active, complicit partner, siphoning off funds for her designer wardrobe and endless spa days, all while smiling sweetly at me and talking about Leo's future. The betrayal deepened with each discovery. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about a pattern, a predatory cycle of deceit that had likely been building for years, unseen by my trusting eyes. My son, my flesh and blood, was a professional swindler, and his wife, a willing accomplice. The tension in my quiet Sedona home became palpable, though only to me. Michael and Caroline would call, their voices falsely cheerful, asking about my health, about my garden. "How are you doing, Mom? Settling back in after the big transfer?" Michael would ask, his tone perfectly pitched, a master of deception. I would smile into the phone, my voice steady, betraying nothing. "Just fine, dear. A bit tired, perhaps. All this paperwork, you know." They believed me, of course. Believed I was just their dumb old mother, easily fatigued, easily manipulated. One afternoon, Michael even suggested they drive up for a weekend visit, ostensibly to check in on me and take Leo to a nearby attraction. My heart seized. They couldn't come. Not yet. My study was a war room. Papers and legal documents spread across my desk, notes scrawled on yellow pads. I needed more time, more information. I concocted a hurried excuse about a sudden bout of vertigo and a doctor's recommendation for complete rest. Caroline, bless her superficial heart, was quick to suggest, "Oh, Mom, you must take care of yourself. We'll just reschedule. Leo will understand." The relief that flooded through me was immense, but it was quickly replaced by a fresh surge of cold fury at their transparent self-interest. They didn't care about my vertigo. They cared about whether I was well enough to remain an easy target. I contacted an old colleague, Evelyn Reed, a sharp-witted attorney specializing in complex financial fraud who had retired around the same time I did. Evelyn was known for her discretion and her ruthless pursuit of justice. We met for lunch in a quiet, out-of-the-way cafe in Flagstaff, far from the prying eyes of Phoenix. I didn't reveal the full scope of my personal involvement at first, framing it as a hypothetical case study for an old project. Evelyn listened, her keen eyes assessing every nuance. She confirmed my suspicions. The reverse mortgage structure was predatory, the shell corporations were classic money laundering vehicles, and the whole setup reeked of calculated fraud. "Janet," she said, stirring her iced tea, her voice low and grave, "this isn't just someone taking advantage. This is systemic. This is a deliberate, high-stakes con. If this were a real case, the perpetrator would be facing serious charges." My breath hitched. And if the victim wired the final payment, unknowingly contributing to their own financial ruin? Evelyn's gaze sharpened. Then the victim needs to act swiftly and decisively. They need to turn the tables before their entire life savings are swallowed whole, and potentially face legal repercussions themselves for unwittingly facilitating the fraud. Her words cemented my resolve. I wasn't just fighting for my money. I was fighting for my future, for my dignity, for the actual legacy I wanted to leave for Leo, untainted by his parents' greed. I finally confessed the truth to Evelyn, the raw, humiliating details of Michael and Caroline's betrayal. She listened without judgment, her expression hardening with each revelation. "This is personal, then," she concluded, her jaw set. "Good. Personal battles are often the fiercest. And Janet, you were an archivist, but you always had the mind of a forensic accountant. You have the discipline for this. We're going to make them regret they ever thought you were dumb." The investigation intensified. With Evelyn's guidance, I began gathering irrefutable proof. Copies of every transaction, screenshots of their incriminating emails, detailed flowcharts of their convoluted corporate structures, even recordings of a few carefully orchestrated phone calls where I subtly prompted them to reiterate their lies about the investment for Leo. I built a case brick by brick, not with the intention of destroying my son, but of dismantling his deception, piece by agonizing piece. The love I once felt for Michael was curdling into a bitter sorrow, a profound grief for the son I thought I knew. But beneath the grief, a steely determination forged. They had sown the wind, and they would reap the whirlwind. My quiet reckoning was almost ready. The plan began to form, precise and intricate, like a tapestry woven from threads of legal precedent, financial maneuvering, and their own predictable arrogance. Evelyn, with her vast network and sharp legal mind, was my indispensable ally. We spent weeks refining it, meeting in discreet corners of quiet libraries, communicating through encrypted channels. The core of it revolved around the nature of the reverse mortgage and the Vance Legacy Trust, which I now knew was not for Leo, but a vehicle to funnel Michael's and Caroline's debt and financial instability directly onto my assets. "The key," Evelyn explained one afternoon, tracing a diagram on a whiteboard in her private office, "is the timing of the default clauses. They've structured this so that your contribution, the one you think is for the down payment, actually secures the loan against the property. If Michael's businesses fail, which, looking at these financials, is a matter of when, not if, the house goes into foreclosure, and because your funds are tied into the original security, you become liable, or at best, your equity vanishes, leaving you with nothing but a legal headache." "And Leo?" I asked, my voice tight. Evelyn sighed. "Leo is effectively disinherited from this property. The Vance Legacy Trust they set up essentially bypasses him, making Michael and Caroline the sole beneficiaries and controllers, allowing them to leverage it as they please. It's a classic shell game, Janet. They shuffle the assets, obscure the liabilities, and hope the dumb old lady never catches on." My resolve solidified further. They weren't just taking my money, they were stealing Leo's future. My goal was no longer merely to protect myself, but to secure Leo's rightful inheritance, even if it meant exposing his parents for who they truly were. Our counterplan involved exploiting the very predatory terms they had set. Michael, in his desperation for quick capital, had attached a tight repayment schedule to the property's bridge loan, the one supposedly being repaid by future rentals. He had done this to present a false picture of solvency to other investors for his failing Viridian. Innovations. Evelyn discovered a clause that allowed for the immediate transfer of lien and beneficial ownership to the original funder, me, should specific, minor, yet crucial, repayment milestones be missed by a single day, effectively accelerating the default. It was an obscure, almost archaic clause, buried deep within the fine print, designed for ruthless corporate takeovers, not for family real estate. But it was there, and they had, in their arrogance, signed it. My task now became a delicate dance. I continued my facade of the doting, slightly confused grandmother. I would call Michael and Caroline, asking seemingly innocent questions about the house, its progress, and how the finances were shaping up. My questions were veiled probes, designed to confirm their blind spots, to make them reveal how little attention they were paying to the minutiae of their own scheme. "Oh," Michael, darling, I'd say, a tremor in my voice. That last payment for the landscaping, was that from the house funds or Viridian? I just want to make sure my records match. You know how I like things tidy. Michael, always dismissive, would laugh. Mom, don't worry your head about that. It's all handled. Just operational costs. You wouldn't understand the complexities of corporate finance. Caroline would chime in. Yes, Grandma J. Michael has it all under control. We're just so busy with the charity gala this month. You wouldn't believe the catering challenges. Each dismissal was a tiny victory for me, confirming their overconfidence. They saw me as a simple woman, easily distracted by domestic trivialities and social calendars. They never suspected that behind my gentle queries, a forensic mind was dissecting their every word, cross-referencing it with the hidden documents I'd uncovered. The final element of the plan involved a specific, low-value but high-impact payment due from Michael's shell corporation to a minor utility service for the house, a payment he would typically delegate and forget. This payment was tied, by Evelyn's discovery, to the accelerated default clause. If missed, it would trigger the legal mechanism for me to reclaim the property. We waited, patiently, for the exact day and time. Meanwhile, Michael continued to project an image of booming success. Viridian Innovations hosted a lavish Future of Tech summit, attended by prominent investors and media. Caroline's lifestyle brand launched a new, expensive line of home decor, complete with glossy magazine spreads featuring their dream home. They were flying high on borrowed money and stolen trust. The day came, a Tuesday. The utility payment was due by 5 p.m. I had the legal documents prepared, a team from Evelyn's old firm on standby. All I had to do was wait for Michael's predictable oversight. The clock ticked. I imagined Michael immersed in a high-stakes meeting or Caroline preening for a photo shoot. They wouldn't be thinking about a small utility bill. They wouldn't be thinking about the dumb old lady they'd so expertly fleeced. At 5:01 p.m., Evelyn's terse text message arrived. Confirmed. Proceed. The unveiling was swift and clinical. We didn't stage a dramatic confrontation, not at first. My vengeance was not about theatrics, but precision. The legal team filed the necessary paperwork, activating the accelerated default clause. Because Michael had signed documentation effectively ceding control upon such a default, and because his shell companies were the primary obligors, the shift in beneficial ownership was immediate and legally binding. The property, along with all its current liabilities, reverted to me. It happened in the quiet, sterile offices of the Phoenix County clerk, far from Michael's gleaming skyscrapers and Caroline's filtered world. The first Michael and Caroline knew of it was not a grand announcement, but a series of increasingly frantic phone calls. First, from the utility company, demanding payment. Then, from the mortgage lender, informing them that the reverse mortgage had been accelerated into my beneficial ownership due to a breach of terms. Then, from the very real estate agents they had used, informing them that the Vance Legacy Trust LLC no longer had any claim to the Biltmore Estates property, and that Michael and Caroline were effectively trespassers with a new and immediate eviction notice. I imagined the scene at their Phoenix mansion that evening. The frantic calls, the disbelief. Michael, red-faced, screaming into his phone. Caroline, her perfect facade crumbling, her social media posts paused in mid-upload. They were too preoccupied to notice the subtle, yet very real. Notices that had been delivered to their legal address. Notices they had dismissed as junk mail or a glitch. Michael called me, his voice a furious roar. Mom! What the hell have you done? The bank says you seized the house. This is insane. You can't do this. My voice was calm, almost serene. Michael, dear, I've simply ensured that the investment for Leo's future is secure. You signed the paperwork. All the details were there, in black and white. You just neglected to read them, didn't you? Or perhaps you thought I was too dumb to understand them. There was a stunned silence on the line, a profound, chilling, quiet, more potent than any shout. He heard the echo of his own words, his own contempt, thrown back at him. Then, A strangled gasp from Caroline in the background. "Mom, this isn't funny," Michael sputtered, regaining some composure, laced with desperate anger. "This is our home. My company is tied into this. You'll ruin everything." Your company, Michael, was already spiraling, bleeding money through those shell corporations you so cleverly hid, I replied, my voice steady, betraying no emotion. And your dream home was always a house of cards built on my retirement. I've merely ensured that the cards don't collapse on my head or on Leo's true legacy. As for ruining everything, Michael, you did that yourself, the moment you thought your own mother was too dumb to know what's really happening. I heard Michael curse, a raw, animal sound of pure rage and disbelief. He began to threaten, to bluster, to demand. But I was done. I quietly disconnected the call, leaving him to rage against the silence, against the consequences of his own hubris. The fallout was spectacular, a slow-motion unraveling of their carefully constructed lives. Michael's Viridian innovations collapsed. The shell companies were exposed, revealing a network of dubious investments and shady dealings that drew the attention of federal regulators. Investors, already wary, pulled out en masse. His once glowing tech career imploded in a blaze of scandal. Caroline's lifestyle brand, built on an image of effortless wealth, crumbled as the truth about their financial instability emerged. Sponsors dropped her, followers vanished, and the glamorous facade she had so meticulously maintained shattered publicly. Their Phoenix mansion was repossessed, not by the bank in the traditional sense, but by my legal claim, which was then immediately put into a new, ironclad trust for Leo, with Evelyn as the sole trustee until he reached adulthood. They tried to fight back, of course. Legal challenges, baseless accusations, attempts to smear my name in the limited circles they still inhabited. But Evelyn had ensured every step was legally sound, every document meticulously prepared. Their case was built on lies, mine on irrefutable facts. They lost, repeatedly, their public humiliation growing with each failed attempt. I never saw Michael or Caroline again after that phone call. They moved out of Phoenix, their glittering lives reduced to whispers of scandal and whispers of debt. Leo, my sweet grandson, came to live with me in Sedona. It was a difficult transition for him at first, confused and saddened by the sudden disappearance of his parents and the loss of his opulent home. I didn't sugarcoat the truth, but I softened it, explaining that sometimes grown-ups make very bad choices, and that my job was to protect him and ensure his future was safe and sound. My life in Sedona returned to its quiet rhythm, but it was a different kind of quiet now. It was the quiet of hard-won peace, of justice served. The chamomile tea tasted sweet again, infused with the calm certainty of knowing I had stood my ground. Leo thrived with me, his laughter echoing not through a mansion built on deceit, but through a small, honest home filled with genuine love. He helped me in the garden, learned about the desert plants, and spent hours in my study, fascinated by the old maps and historical documents. I started teaching him about responsible finance, about the true value of things, lessons I wished Michael had learned. The Phoenix property, now secured in Leo's trust, remained untouched, a silent monument to a betrayal and a reckoning. It would be sold when Leo came of age, its proceeds a true legacy for him, untainted by the greed that once sought to consume it. The details of that trust were meticulously crafted by Evelyn, impenetrable and safeguarded against any future attempts at manipulation. It was a fortress of legal clauses and ethical oversight, ensuring Leo's financial security for decades to come, far removed from the predatory impulses of his biological parents. We even arranged for a modest stipend for his education and well-being, dispersed through Evelyn, so that his immediate needs were met without Michael and Caroline ever gaining direct access or influence. Leo, once a child of privilege, learned quickly the simple joys of life in Sedona. He discovered the thrill of hiking the red rock trails, the wonder of a night sky ablaze with stars, and the comfort of shared meals at my small kitchen table. He adapted with a resilience that amazed me, a testament to his own innate goodness and the genuine love he received. We'd spend afternoons at the local library, not just for books, but for the community events, the art workshops, and the quiet hum of shared knowledge. I taught him how to tend to my cacti and succulents, explained the delicate balance of the desert ecosystem, and encouraged his boundless curiosity. He learned that value wasn't measured in square footage or designer labels, but in shared laughter, in honest effort, and in the unwavering bonds of true affection. Sometimes, a flicker of sadness would cross Leo's face when he saw other children with their parents, or when he remembered a specific toy or a grand holiday from his past. I never dismissed his feelings. Instead, I'd hold him close, acknowledging his pain, and then gently redirect him to the beauty and stability of our present. It's okay to miss things, sweet pea, I'd tell him. But remember, we build our happiness right here, right now, with what we have and who we are. He was a constant reminder of why I had fought so hard, not out of bitterness, but out of a profound, enduring love. My own social circle, once relatively small, began to expand. My neighbors, initially curious about the sudden arrival of a young child, became allies. They saw my dedication to Leo, my quiet strength, and offered a network of support that warmed my heart. I volunteered at the local historical society, using my archiving skills to help preserve Sedona's rich past, finding a renewed sense of purpose that extended beyond my personal battle. Evelyn and I remained close, our bond forged in the crucible of that shared fight. She often remarked on my transformation. "You've bloomed, Janet," she'd say. "From an archivist of dusty records to a guardian of living legacies. They tried to bury you, but you became a seed. It's quiet now, the kind of quiet that wraps around you. Soft and steady, not suffocating. Funny how the echoes of chaos can take so long to fade, but eventually they do. The house feels different, not because the walls changed or the furniture moved, but because the weight's gone, the silent dread that used to hang in the corners, that fear of misplaced trust, of empty smiles, of watching everything I built slip through my fingers. It's gone. The kitchen clock ticks in steady rhythm. Leo's soft breathing rises and falls as he sleeps curled beside me, his small hand clutching a well-worn storybook. The world outside hums along, oblivious. And me? I've stopped waiting for the next shoe to drop, stopped bracing for manipulation disguised as love, stopped apologizing for protecting what's mine. There's no grand ending here, no parade, no applause, just steady, earned peace. I take another sip of tea, honey swirling in the warmth. The desert night outside glows faintly under the moonlight, and the quiet hum of the air conditioner is a comforting drone. And for the first time in a long time, I feel truly safe. No more second-guessing, no more giving away pieces of myself just to keep the peace, no more underestimating the quiet strength I carry. This is enough. And tonight, as the house settles and the desert wind whispers against the windows, I remind myself, I survived. I rebuilt. I stayed standing. And I did it all quietly, soft as desert sand, sharp as a yucca thorn, steady as stone. The most profound wisdom, I've learned, often comes not from avoiding the storm, but from silently navigating its eye and emerging, not hardened, but whole. They thought I was dumb, but they mistook my kindness for weakness, my quietness for ignorance. And in the end, it was their own arrogance that was their undoing, while my quiet resolve quietly reclaimed everything, ensuring a future of genuine love and security for the one who truly mattered. My journey wasn't about revenge, but about the reclamation of self, of truth, and of a legacy worth preserving, one humble, resilient grandmother at a time. The world could keep its glittering facades. I had my quiet victory, and the boundless love of a grandson who reminded me every day what truly mattered.